Peace will fill the world when we finally understand that only from within can it be spread throughout the land. Every single person living peace in what we do, only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true.
Good morning, friends. I'm Leona Evans, minister at Unity of San Luis Obispo, an inclusive, progressive, spiritual community affirming the good in all life. Welcome to our Sunday morning live stream. This is the first Sunday in February. We're going to be celebrating Black History Month with an important individual to be honored each Sunday in February. And we're also going to talk about ways we can use some of their inspiration to be a powerful set of methods to live by in our own lives. But first, let's take a deep breath and relax. To prepare ourselves for this time together, let us remind ourselves of why we're here. We are here to remember that the presence of God is everywhere present. It is the one presence and the one creative power in all of the universe. Each of us is created by this one power, and each of us is creative by nature as well. Not necessarily needing to be saved, we focus on being awakened to those divine principles of light and love and power that are within us. And so we open our minds and hearts and we listen to inspiration that can feed us so that we can use these methods and tools to become the light, the love, the prosperity, the health, the peace that we want to see in our world. So let's take a deep breath and relax. Find a comfortable space. Let's feel our muscles relax. Let's open our mind and heart to being awake, alert, and focused on this opportunity to remember who we really are. Again, let's take another deep breath and let us speak the words of our invocation statement together. I am now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. Once again, I am now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. And so it is. Amen. Well, let's open our service as always with a joy song performed by Matthew J. Evans.
Good morning. Today we're going to sing I'm Ready for a Miracle. Please sing along with the lyrics on the bottom of the screen. I'm ready for a miracle, ready for a miracle, I'm ready for a miracle today. I've got my mind in tune for one, ready to experience one, I'm ready for a miracle today. My mind is open, ready to receive it. My heart is open, open all the way. I do accept a miracle, do accept a miracle, I do accept a miracle today. I do receive a miracle, do receive a miracle, I do receive a miracle today. I'm ready for a miracle, ready for a miracle, I'm ready for a miracle today. I've got my mind in tune for one, ready to experience one, I'm ready for a miracle today. My mind is open, ready to receive it. My heart is open, open all the way. I do accept a miracle, do accept a miracle, I do accept a miracle today. I do receive a miracle, do receive a miracle, I do receive a miracle today. I do receive a miracle today. I do receive a miracle today. Have a great morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, Matthew. That was just lovely. Well, today, in honor of the first week of Black History Month, we are going to celebrate a world-class entertainer and civil rights activist, Eartha Kitt. She was one of the world's most exotic and memorable performers who spoke 4 languages, sang in 7, and had a unique and unforgettable sound. Her career spanned more than 50 years. She performed on Broadway, in cabarets throughout the world, on film and television. She made Grammy-winning recordings and had one of the world's most recognizable voices. In fact, Orson Welles described her as the most exciting woman in the world. Now, in addition, she was an outspoken civil rights activist who was a great supporter of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She advocated for gay rights, women's rights, and underserved young people. She used her voice to call attention to laws and behaviors she felt were unfair to minorities. She established Kittsville Youth Foundation, a nonprofit organization for underprivileged youth. She also supported Rebels with a Cause, a group of youth who established recreational areas and clean up streets. Eartha believed that education was one of the most important ways minority groups could rise out of their limited circumstances and feel their own worth. Eartha Kitt was born Eartha May Keith on a cotton plantation in a little town in South Carolina in 1927. Her mother's family were sharecroppers, poor tenant farmers who gave a portion of their crops to the plantation owners as rent. Her mother was a mixture of Native American and African American. It was assumed that Eartha's mother had been the product of rape and that her father might have been the white plantation owner. Well, Eartha was treated as an outcast as she was growing up because of her mixed race. At the age of 4, she was sent to pick cotton in the fields, a grueling work. A couple of years later, when she was about 6 years old, Eartha's mother met an older man who wanted to marry her, but he insisted that they leave Eartha behind. One of Eartha's earliest memories was of seeing her mother kneeling before her fiancé, crying and begging him to reconsider. But all he said was, "I don't want that yellow gal in my house." So, at the age of 5 or 6, Eartha was placed with a family she didn't know. The woman forced her to take care of the farm animals and do heavy housework every day, and often neglected to feed her. Eartha said, "I wish I had it as good as Cinderella. That family treated their animals better than they treated me." In addition, the woman's teenage grandchildren used to tie her to a tree and beat Eartha with a switch until blood ran down her legs. But Eartha knew that speaking up would only make things worse. One day, A neighbor contacted Eartha's aunt, who lived in New York City. She said, if you don't get this child out of here, they're going to kill her, or she's going to die from abuse. The aunt sent a train ticket, and Eartha went to live with her in New York. Now, although her life in New York was somewhat better, she still never received enough to eat and was frequently beaten by her aunt. However, Eartha had the chance to go to public school, and she developed a great love for learning. Even though she was bullied at school by both blacks and whites for not being black enough or white enough, she began to attract attention for her singing and dancing abilities. Eventually, one of Eartha's junior high school teachers set up an audition for her at what is now called the Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art, and she received a full scholarship. There, she was able to work toward developing her talents. It was a wonderful opportunity for her. A turning point for Eartha was when she auditioned for the famous choreographer Katherine Dunham, the director of a prestigious all-black dance company. She toured with the company throughout the United States, Mexico, and Europe. During her time in Paris, Eartha was offered a job performing at a cabaret. She took the opportunity, quit the dance company, and became a cabaret artist. This is where she became fluent in French. Eventually, she was booked to do singing engagements in London, in Istanbul, and New York, where she was discovered and put into the Broadway musical New Faces of 1952. The show was a huge hit, and Eartha had now perfected her stage image of the seductive, sophisticated, yet humorous personality. She had a succession of best-selling records, including Uskadara, which she sang in the original Turkish, C'est si bon, which she sang in French, and the ever-popular, very popular Santa Baby. She also sang folk tales of the tribes of Africa, which earned her a Grammy nomination. In 1961, after Eartha had married accountant John MacDonald, she gave birth to a blonde-haired, blue-eyed daughter who she named Kit. Her name was Kit MacDonald. Eartha and John were divorced a couple of years later, however, but Eartha was a devoted mother who took Kit with her to all parts of the world, wherever she worked on the road. Now, one of the challenges Eartha encountered was that quite a few people they met assumed that Kit was not Eartha's biological child. This issue played an important part in a situation that came up in South Africa when Kit was about 12 years old. Now, Eartha had accepted an invitation to perform in South Africa during apartheid. While most entertainers refused to perform there because of apartheid and the segregation, Eartha thought she could do some good. However, she stipulated that she would only perform for integrated audiences, something that was very unusual during that time. She also hoped to use the trip to raise money to help build schools there for Black African children. And so while Eartha and Kit were in South Africa, Kit really wanted her mom to take her to a well-known amusement park. She had already visited the park accompanied by her white tutor, and the park personnel seemed to think that both of them were white. Well, unbeknownst to Kit, she had such a great time there that she really wanted her mom to enjoy the experience with her. Eartha agreed. However, a few minutes after they arrived at the amusement park, an employee walked up to Eartha and said, "Are you colored?" She said, "Yes, I am." The man said, I'm afraid you're going to have to leave then. This is a whites only park. You're not allowed to be here. Well, Eartha got up to leave, and Kit started to cry out of shame and frustration. But Eartha said, "Don't panic. God may not be there when you want him, but he's always on time." I'm going to repeat that again because later on we're going to talk about some of Eartha's famous phrases that her daughter Kit chronicled in a book she wrote. She said, "Don't panic. God may not be there when you want him, but he's always on time." I love it. Well, a day or two later, after this incident, during a press conference in her hotel, a photographer said to Eartha, "Can we get a shot of you standing on the balcony with the amusement park in the background?" And she said, "You know, it's funny. I was thrown out of that amusement park just the other day." Well, everyone in the room, all of the press, were shocked. The story made headlines, and the owner of the amusement park was completely embarrassed. He visited Eartha in her dressing room carrying flowers and champagne and said, "Please accept my deepest apologies. My employee didn't know who you were." Eartha said, "Well, we're building schools for Black African children, and if you would make a donation, that would be much appreciated." She also said, "My daughter would really like me to come back to the amusement park with her, and she would like to bring some of her friends." The owner said, "Bring as many people as you want." Well, Eartha chose 2 Black children, 2 white children, and 2 mixed-race children. They got to the park and they all sat on the bumper cars together and posed for pictures, which the press loved. The next day, that classic photo, which you are seeing on your screen, was on the front page in all of the newspapers. All of the newspapers. It made huge news. And Eartha had unwittingly, but not unconsciously, introduced a new view of people in South Africa. Eartha had made her point. She told her daughter, who was upset with her for not speaking up and saying, "You need to know who I am. I'm Eartha Kitt and I have privilege." But she reminded her daughter, while it's very important to speak up, never miss an opportunity to stay quiet. I love that. Now, not taking her own advice in this case, Eartha Kitt faced a major career setback in January of 1968 when she, along with 50 other women influencers, were invited to the Women Doers Luncheon at the White House hosted by Lady Bird Johnson. Eartha said that she thought the purpose of the luncheon was to discuss the problems of juvenile delinquency in the streets. But it turned out that Mrs. Johnson wanted to focus on planting flowers in underprivileged areas. Well, when it was Eartha's turn to speak up, she made anti-Vietnam War comments. She said, "You send the best of this country off to be shot and maimed. They rebel in the streets. They take pot and get high. They don't want to go to school because they'll be snatched off from their mothers to be shot in Vietnam. The children of America are not rebelling for no reason. They are rebelling against something." Well, apparently Lady Bird started to cry. And within the hour, President Johnson had put the word out to the TV stations and newspapers saying that he didn't want to see that woman's face on television or anywhere else. He sent the CIA to develop a dossier on Eartha Kitt, and they did. But since there was no information to put on it. There was nothing derogatory that had ever been part of her record. They falsely accused her of being a sadistic nymphomaniac, which was obviously not true, even though she jokingly played that kind of character, even when she sang Santa Baby. But as a result of the pressure from the White House, Eartha Kitt was blacklisted from working in the United States for more than 10 years. Now, obviously, there were many more celebrities that came out against the Vietnam War after she did, but apparently she was a groundbreaker in this area when she had the opportunity to speak to those people whom she believed could do something about it. Well, Eartha worked overseas during that 10-year period where she was blacklisted. And in each country where she performed, she was always active in helping the underprivileged and was loved by audiences everywhere. Finally, she was asked to come back to Broadway when more and more people began to understand exactly why she was being blacklisted and opened their doors to her. She opened on Broadway to standing ovations before she even opened her mouth, and her career became stronger than ever. She continued working until she was almost 80 years old and passed away in 2008 at the age of 81. Now, throughout her career, Eartha would recount episodes of her abuse as a child. When asked why she was reluctant to let go of the past, because she talked about it on all of her TV interviews, many of which are on YouTube, and I'd love for you to tune in and see them. But when they asked why she was reluctant to let go and why she was willing to talk about her past so freely, she said, "Why would I want to forget? Why would I want to let go of something that was such an integral part of the foundation that made me who I am?" She was not someone who had been defeated by the adversity she had faced. If anything, it gave her a sense of pride. It served as proof of how strong she was inside. She wasn't going to let them defeat her. She said, "I have taken all the manure that has been thrown on me and used it as fertilizer." Not only was Eartha Kitt an overcomer, she also understood the importance of gratitude. Because of what she had gone through in her past, she would wake up every single morning and say, "Thank you, God, for allowing me to open my eyes and see the beauty that surrounds me." When asked about her unusual speaking voice, which no one could actually pinpoint in terms of where does that accent come from, she said, "When you speak with good diction and proper enunciation, you can hold your head up high and speak with anyone in the world." Something like that. We'll be back with metaphysical insights that affect our own lives from the words of Eartha Kitt after we hear some wonderful music from Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans.
Here's a terrific jazz tune from Ray Brown, the great bass player with Ella Fitzgerald. They were married for a while. And he also was with Oscar Peterson. But he was just a terrific bass player. The lyric in this song is from Steve Allen. And it's a kind of a cute little ditty, I would call it. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Miss Miranda's in the kitchen this glorious day. Smile the gravy summer nearly half a mile away. Lady morning glory, I say good morning to you. Chirpy little chickadee told me that my baby Miranda's ready to do the evergreen gravy waltz. Miss Miranda's in the kitchen this glorious day. Smell the gravy simmering nearly half a mile away. Good morning, glory, I say. Good morning to you. Chirpy little chickadee told me that my baby was true. Miss Miranda ran to her frying pan when she saw me coming. What a little taste before it goes to waste. These honey bees, oh, I'm coming. This weeping willow, I'm through with all of my thoughts. 'Cause Miranda's ready to do the evergreen gravy waltz. 'Cause my baby's ready to do the evergreen gravy waltz. Oh my goodness. Ray Brown and Steve Allen, 1962, they did that tune. Was that fun?
Oh yeah, so much fun. One of the best. I remember watching those old Ray Brown videos on YouTube. Learned all the best stuff from him.
I thought so too.
Thank you so much, Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans. Great song, beautifully performed as always. This month we are also honoring Black composers in light of Black History Month. And so thank you, Brett, for sharing Ray Brown's song and the fact that he and Ella were married for a number of years. He's wonderful, one of Matthew's heroes. Well, we've been honoring Eartha Kitt for this first week of Black History Month. Now, she had a daughter named Kitt who wrote a most interesting and comprehensive book that I highly recommend to you called Eartha and Kitt, A Daughter's Love Story in Black and White. Now, Kitt said that Eartha accumulated a series of sayings, philosophies of life, and I'd like to share some of them with you and talk about how they can bless and enhance our own lives. These are great phrases on some familiar and powerful topics. The first one by Eartha Kitt is, I am never afraid of memories. They make me who I am. I am never afraid of memories. They make me who I am. And so we touched on this a little in the last segment, but I think this is an important insight because many of us believe, whether we realize it or not, that we would be a lot better off without our memories, especially negative memories. We often make an effort to stay away from our past challenges and difficulties because we think they diminish us in some way or keep us from moving on with our lives. But the truth is, making an effort to avoid past memories is not necessarily a sign that we've moved beyond them. It's more of an indication that we're afraid of embracing them because we think that remembering them will cause us to feel bad about ourselves or pull us down. But please remember, there's a big difference between facing and dealing with our past and dwelling on it. We don't want to be preoccupied with reliving past challenges or failures, but neither do we want to try to avoid them because we regret them and fear them so deeply. When Eartha Kitt was being interviewed and asked about her past experiences, she was more than willing to discuss them, even though her upbringing was quite tragic in many ways. And when people said, "Why don't you move past those experiences?" she said she didn't want to. And she added, "Those memories make me who I am." And by that she meant that she was able to acknowledge those events, accept them, learn from them, and embrace them as events that made her stronger, more mature, and more compassionate. Although she felt the pain of those memories, she didn't identify with them or become depressed by them any longer. Now, I believe these are very healthy insights. If we have anxiety around certain issues from our past that cause us shame or cause us to think we're unacceptable and are reluctant to bring them up because we want to keep them in a safe space, we need to think again about the powerful possibilities of realizing that by acknowledging and accepting those experiences, we can discover, as Carl Jung often said, the gold in our shadow, which unleashes a type of spiritual power within us that helps us understand and accept who we are. The next quote: "No one has less to live for than one who lives for themselves alone. No one has less to live for than one who lives for themselves alone." Again, a very powerful insight from a person who balanced her life with enlightened self-interest and a passion to heal inequality in the world. The great goal in life is to achieve balance. See, life is a process of moving from one extreme to another until we achieve a type of synthesis that is the balance of both the light and the darkness. This is an ongoing process. Focusing on ourselves for too long can become self-absorbing and ego-centered. Focusing on the world for too long can enervate us and rob us of our individuality. What a beautiful balance it is when we're able to remember ourselves while working toward a higher purpose than our own individual gains. To be dedicated to developing our own skills while realizing that they can also serve a greater good. It's so important for us to honor our own divine individuality. Without a healthy recognition that we have value and purpose in our world, we begin to think of ourselves as unnecessary or without value. Without a healthy self-concept, we can't feel that we have anything to give, either to ourselves or others. But the healthier we are in consciousness, the more self-knowledgeable we are, the better able we are to move back and forth between compassionate self-acceptance and knowing that we have something important to offer others. This is not an ego-centered experience, but an understanding that we are part of something greater than ourselves. Our next quote relates to something we talked about last week. Eartha Kitt says, "I have never yearned to stay young in the common sense, but to stay me." Again, I have never yearned to stay young in the common sense, but to stay me. Last week we talked about psychological problems that many women, as well as others, associate with aging. And we realized that the amount and nature of information being fed to us through advertising and social media has adversely affected our level of self-acceptance. I've heard people say, "I'm not myself since I started aging. I hate what I see in the mirror. I don't know who I am anymore." We are such a youth-obsessed culture that we've lost sight of our inner values and berate ourselves for moving through an important part of life. This is an exercise in self-abuse and makes it so much harder for us to get to a place of genuine self-esteem and self-acceptance at any stage of our growth and development. We also talked last week about how we can take our power back by realizing that beauty is in the eye of the beholder and subject to changing values. We can look at history to prove that. Art galleries and history is filled with figures of individuals that were found to be beautiful, and there were so many different takes on it. I believe that the more we focus on our spiritual work of meditation, self-observation, and self-remembering, the less time we will have to obsess about how many wrinkles we have or where certain body parts used to be. The more able we are to develop our inner selves, the less focused we'll be on our outer selves. Work on our inner selves, the less obsessed we'll be on our outer selves. Of course, this doesn't mean not taking care of ourselves or ignoring the way we look, but it does mean affording ourselves the opportunity to bless our bodies as we cleanse them and moisturize them and bless them, and develop a genuine appreciation for the way we look at this stage of our lives. It's important to remember that we don't lose ourselves when we age. Instead, we have the power to discover more of who we really are. More of ourselves as we age, not less. It's a mindset that has to be changed if we are to gain a broader, wiser look at the nature of life itself. Our final quote for today, Eartha Kitt says, "I stayed on my path and did not follow the herd." I stayed on my path and did not follow the herd. Now, the herd can represent the outer world and its social norms, and it can also represent the herd of our many selves that occupy the spectrum of our consciousness, especially our inner critic. Now, for those of you who haven't heard this before, our inner critic is that aspect of our consciousness that insists on sticking to the rules and never allows us to take chances in life. Contrary to common belief, the critic does not hate us or want us to fail. The critic is afraid for us. It's the ego aspect of mind that fears public opinion or disapproval of any kind. It's also the part of self that is deeply afraid of failure and has little confidence in life itself or in our ability to succeed at life. For me, what's really scary is why we continue to put so much faith in the critic's advice. Why do we believe in the critic's ability to know what's best for us? The critic is by nature always criticizing. That's its job. That's all it does. Its message is always the same. You're wrong. You're a failure. Why did you try? You did too much. You did too little. You should be ashamed of yourself and keep yourself out of trouble. Now, my question is, what is it that causes us to want to get approval from the critic when it only has one job, to criticize? And even that is not coming from an enlightened space. Clearly, we're vulnerable to this kind of input, this all or nothing input, because much of the world judges our worth by our accomplishments, and we have allowed ourselves to accept those values. So, is it hard to stay on our own individualized path and focus on our own deepest values and not follow the herd, either external or internal? Yes, it's hard. Of course it's hard. The temptation to not want to be seen as a failure, or to not get in trouble, or to not be stupid or bad. Yes, it's very hard to get out of that. Staying on our path is one of the hardest things we can ever do. And we need to do it over and over again with each challenge that faces us and threatens our inner security. Now, the only chance we have to lift ourselves from the tyranny of the inner critic is through a deeper and finer and more loving understanding of who we are, why we are here, and what is ours to do. When we realize that the inner critic is based on a social construct, we can free ourselves from our slavish interest in its opinions and advice. We can free ourselves to be ourselves. Take a deep breath now and relax. It's time in our service for meditation, contemplation, and integration of today's message. Let us affirm our unique and divine individuality. Let us give thanks that each of us is a divine original, that each of us is God, Spirit, seeing itself from every level of its being. Each of us a thought in God mind. I am one with my divine individuality. I am connected to my divine intuition, and I understand how to express my own unique self. I am guided by divine wisdom to do what is mine to do. I am blessed by divine love so that I am encouraged by my guidance to move forward in faith and with integrity. I am one with the all-knowing mind of Spirit. I know, I remember, I understand, I express myself perfectly. I am able to identify my inner critic. I am able to observe my inner critic. And I am able to remember that I am greater wiser, and more loving than the critic believes me to be. I embrace the critic in my mind and heart. Move my attention to the divine I am. And live my life to the fullest. And so it is. Amen. Friends, now is the time in our service when we have the opportunity to share our tithes and gifts to Unity of San Luis Obispo. We affirm Unity of San Luis Obispo is a powerful, positive online ministry, mighty to share our good and open to receiving our good from others. As you tithe to where you receive your spiritual potential, as you tithe to where you receive your spiritual inspiration, please know that a portion of all your gifts goes to large and well-known and well-respected organizations around the world who protect our civil rights and bless our planet Earth. We encourage you to recognize that responsibility as creative beings to share our good belongs to us. And yet, as we share our gifts and put put the divine law of attraction in motion, we can see that gift returning to us 30, 60, 100-fold, so that we have more to give and more to receive. And this is a never-ending cycle. What we give and an attitude in which we give it returns to us, blessing us. Let's speak the words of our prosperity statement together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give and all that I receive.
Here is a tune written by the late, great Charlie Parker. Often, his nickname was Yardbird, but it was often shortened to just Bird. It's called Yardbird Suite from 1946. Ready, Matthew?
Oh yeah, love this one.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yardbird Suite by Charlie Parker, 1946. Woo!
One of the best. One of the best.
Heart beating there.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans. What a great number again. beautifully performed, and honoring the great saxophone player and composer, one of the greats, Charlie Parker. Let's sing our peace song, shall we?
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyful vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And now let's speak the words of our prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Friends, please remember to press the like button and share your comments with us. And you can do this no matter what time you watch it, either today or anytime during the week or a month from now. Those channels are always open on Facebook to have you share your comments, your suggestions. It's really important to us, and to let us know that you like what you see. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for helping us grow our online ministry so exponentially. Thank you for tuning into the Get Off Your Affirmation podcast. And please remember, each of us has worth. Each of us has power that we haven't yet tapped into. Have a wonderful, blessed week. You deserve it.
Every single person living peace in what we do. Only then will our dream come true. Only then